Hi everyone, Stephanie with Mama Bear Ink. Welcome back to my YouTube channel for another card making video. If this is your first visit, thank you very much and I hope you will consider subscribing. Today we're going to be making a card using two Stampin' Up! Stamp sets. Now they're both new. Vintage Leaves was new in our annual catalog for this year and it has some great leaf images. It's one of my absolute favorites. And Acorny Thank You is new in our holiday catalog this year. Both of these stamp sets do come in a bundle, and the links to the bundles will be on my blog at mamabearink.blogspot.com. Vintage Leaves you can bundle with a framelit set called Leaflets, and Acorny Thank You can bundle with the Acorn Acorn Builder Punch, I think is the name of it. And we're going to be using it on today's card, so you'll be able to see how it works. So let's get started. The pieces that you're going to need for today's card are a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock. This is cut 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, scored at 5 1/2 down the center. So when we fold this over, it creates the perfect 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 top folding A2 standard size card, which fits in the Stampin' Up! Medium sized envelopes just perfectly. Our next layer is going to be one of, Hello Honey cardstock. This is cut 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Our next layer is going to be Mossy Meadow cardstock, and this is cut 5 by 3 3/4. We are also going to need a piece of fun foam, and I have cut this down to fit behind the Hello Honey layer, so it is the same size as the Mossy Meadow, which is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. We'll need a scrap of Whisper White, and you can just use the original Whisper White for this, and another scrap of Hello Honey. All right. So let's put this stuff aside, and the first thing that we're going to do is work on our stamped panel, which will be on the Mossy Meadow. And we're going to be using the large oak leaf stamp from the Vintage Leaves set and some Versamark ink. And we are going to be embossing in clear embossing powder, which is also available from Stampin' Up! So before we emboss, we are going to use our embossing buddy and wipe this over our cardstock to remove any static electricity or oils from our fingers or anything else that might be on there. So our clear embossing powder doesn't stick to anything other than what we want it to stick to. All right, so we'll get our stamp inked up here with the Versamark ink. Now I want one full leaf across the center of the paper, like so. I'll just hold that down for a second, make sure we get a good impression. There we go. And because this is dark cardstock, you can kind of see where you're stamping as opposed to stamping on white cardstock with Versamark, which is very difficult. All right, ink it up again, and we're just going to kind of add some random stamps going off of our panel all the way around. Just kind of fill in around the original leaf that we stamped. Right, now that we have all of our leaf images in place, we'll set that aside and bring in a piece of scrap paper, and we're going to be careful not to touch those stamped images. We'll bring in some scrap paper and some clear embossing powder. Now I buy this by the ton and I keep it in a big tub just because I tend to use it quite a bit. And we're just going to cover all of our stamped images with the clear embossing powder. And once we have that complete, we'll get the embossing powder put away here so we don't blow it all over the place. And then we will bring in our heat tool and we're going to melt this clear powder until it's all nice and shiny. And that's going to give us a cool tone-on-tone look for this card. Now that we have our leaves all embossed, you can see what an awesome tone-on-tone appearance they have. This just comes from embossing with the clear embossing powder over the colored cardstock, and I just love the way that turns out. All right, so we are done embossing our leaves. The next thing that we're going to do is create our ornament for the front of the card, and that is going to consist of our scrap of Whisper White, Cajun Craze ink, and the Nuts About You stamp, acorn stamp from the Acorny. Thank you. And because this is a solid image, we are going to bring in our Stampin' Pierce mat, and we're going to use this as a bit of a cushion because the photopolymer stamps don't have cushion of their own. And when they're solid images, you can achieve a much nicer image by providing some cushion. Now you can do that with the Stampin' Pierce mat, which is what I recommend, or you can do that with a piece of craft foam even, because that will give your stamping some cushion. So we're going to ink up the stamp in Cajun Craze and stamp it down on our Whisper White scrap. Just going to hold that for a second or two, make sure it transfers nicely, straight up, and there is our acorn stamp. So that is all the stamping we will need to do with our Cajun Craze. Now, again, Acorny, thank you, has a coordinating punch called the Acorn Builder Punch. And again, you can buy the stamp set and the punch in a bundle and save 15% on that purchase. So we are going to punch out our little acorn that we stamped, taking just a moment to get it lined up nicely. Punch, and we have our perfect little acorn. The next thing that we are going to do is take our 1 3/4 inch scallop circle punch, also available in our annual catalog, and our scrap of Hello Honey, and we're just going to punch one of those out. Now our little scallop circle is going to be textured, and to do that I'm using the brand new Softly Falling Textured Impressions embossing folder. And I have to tell you, this is absolutely gorgeous. We're just using a small portion of it today. Obviously we're going to texture our little circle, but when you use this on cards, and I will have some upcoming, absolutely beautiful. All right, so for this little guy, what we're going to do is we want him covered. Well, it's kind of going to depend on how much you want him covered. If you want him to be all bumpy, you're going to put him down here where the bumps are most dense. And if you just want it kind of scattered, you can move him up to where the bumps are less dense. But we're going to put him inside the Textured Impressions embossing folder, close it up, and run it through our Big Shot machine on tab 2 between our cutting plates. And once that is done, he will come out, haha, if I can get a hold of him, he will come out looking like this. And so you will have a nicely textured little scallop circle. And this is going to go behind our little punched acorn as an ornament on the front of our card. So I would like him to be down on the circle because we're going to pop the circle up on the front of the card. So in order to accomplish that, I'm just going to use a bit of liquid glue, and I'm using liquid glue. This is the Tombow Mono Multi Liquid Glue, available on the Stampin' Up site. I'm using this because, come on big guy, the surface underneath it is not flat. And so to use tape runner adhesive or something like that, you run the risk of it coming up because it's just not making good contact for adhesion. So that is why I am using the liquid glue. And we're just going to set that down and make sure that we do have good contact with everything below it. All right, so we have created our little ornament for the front of our card. We'll set that aside. Now we are going to bring back our Mossy Meadow panel. and bring in some Stampin' Up! Linen thread. Love this stuff. It is the perfect embellishment for whatever you're doing. This is also available in my Stampin' Up! Online store, and there will be links to it on my blog, so you can get to it easily. So because this thread is wrapped around this cardboard piece, it gets little kinks in it. The good news is they come out really quickly if you just run it kind of through your fingers. And ooh, I just tied a knot in it. That's not good. Get rid of that. If you just run it through your fingers a couple of times, you can get those kinks out of there. And we're going to be wrapping this linen thread around this front panel several times. And so what I like to do is just take a little bit of fast fuse and lay it down. And then I can set my linen thread inside there and wrap this around as many times as I would like, and then bring it back to that dab of fast fuse and glue it down. And just that quickly, we have that portion of it done. Now, I'm going to bring these down just a tad here to make them look the way I want them to. And I want them a little scattered, but fairly close together. All right, so I've got that looking good. Now we are going to start assembling our card. So this piece is going to go on top of our Hello Honey layer, and we are going to accomplish that with some snail adhesive. Ooh, I just ran out of snail adhesive. All right, well, this is a good time to show you how snail adhesive works. When you purchase snail adhesive, it comes looking just like this, and there's a roll of adhesive on the inside. When you purchase snail refills, they come looking like this. And so you just need to open this guy up, bring him out there. We're going to remove this little yellow piece here and set that down. Now we're going to open up our adhesive dispenser, both top and bottom, and save this part. You don't ever want to throw that part away. This is the part that's empty, and this is the part we are replacing. So we'll throw that one away. We don't need it anymore. And then we will bring our dispenser top. Aha! Let me see if I can do this. All right, and we're just gonna snap them together just like that, and we have a brand new roll of snail adhesive. And then I just, ooh, it's already there. Okay, so we will go ahead and finish applying our snail so we can continue putting our card together. So again, this is the Mossy Meadow layer going on top of the Hello Honey layer, and we'll center that up and lay it down. And then this finished panel is going to go on top of our Cajun Craze card base. However, we're going to pop the whole layer up using our piece of fun foam. And I apply fun foam with fast fuse just because it is a bit of a different surface. And is my fast fuse gonna work? There we go. It is a bit of a different surface, and we do want a really strong hold for this. Won't be any fun if you're sending your card through the mail and when your recipient, haha, I didn't flick it good enough. When your recipient opens it up, it all pops apart. So we want to use a very strong adhesive to put the fun foam into the center of the card. And we're just going to line that up on the backhand side. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. You just need to make sure it's not going to show from the front. All right, and then we will take our fast fuse again and apply it to the back side of the fun foam. And then we will take our card base and place our popped up panel on the front, lining it up. There we go. All right. So we're just about done. The last thing that we need to do is to pop our little ornament up on the front. And so we're going to do that with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Love these little guys. They're one of my favorite things. So we want the dimensionals to be on this side and this side of the thread. So we're going to put one at the top, and then because I over adhesive everything, I put two at the bottom. And then we'll just place our little acorn like so. And we have completed our card. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. I've really enjoyed spending time with you, and I look forward to doing so again soon. Take care.